Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Sasha the GM, and today I wanted to go over my virtual tabletop and my group initiative sheet. So my virtual tabletop that I use is kind of unique. I've never heard of anyone doing something similar to this, though I'm sure it's been done before, but I use the GIMP photo editing software in order to play the game. So as you can see, I have a map which I can zoom out and you can see that there's things on the map. I draw these maps using a map making software that I'll explain a little bit later in another video. But basically I can manipulate the tokens that I've created and move them along the grid, and I can just drag and drop enemies into the tabletop, and it takes a second to load, but I can use enemy tokens like this one. I've got all different kinds of colors and numbers I can use, but yeah, so the only problem with using this as a virtual tabletop, in my experience, has been the fact that the players cannot manipulate their own tokens. So when I'm playing with my friends, I have to move their tokens for them. They'll of course say where they want to go, and I'll move them, and most of the time they don't need me to do a square by square direction. Like if, for instance, if someone was playing Reginald, this blue one, then they said they wanted to get on the north side of blue 1, I would just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then that would be it. And unless they had some specifics, like they purposely wanted to draw the attack of opportunity or something, then they would have to call that out and I would have to make an adjustment. But for the most part, it's worked out perfectly for me. And I can, using the software, I can scale individual tokens. So, like if someone gets enlarged, like if Celeste here got enlarged, I can scale her token up. And then if she dropped the spell for whatever reason, or the spell ran out, I could reduce her again back to normal size. So it's really useful, and I can adjust the opacity. So if, for instance, Monster 1 here went invisible, I could adjust the opacity to be transparent so that it's signified that the monster can't be seen, but I can still manipulate it so that I know where it is without having to memorize it. And obviously I can hide things by making the opacity 0. So if I want to do a surprise ambush, I can just adjust the opacity when the players get close enough, and then the monster will appear. But that is just a very basic, simple overview of my virtual tabletop, but I wanted to go over it because you're going to see it in my solo campaign that I'm going to be starting soon, and I didn't want to have to explain it every time that it comes up. And the other thing, the much more important thing in my opinion, is my group initiative sheet. So the group initiative sheet does a lot more than just initiative. So it starts with, I'll start with the hit points. So it keeps track of the current hit points and the total hit points with the percentage of hit points remaining here. So for instance, if Celeste took 1 hit point of damage, I would adjust it, and as you can see, the color of the name changes based on the amount of hit points remaining. It goes blue for like I think it's like 90% or better, then it's green, then yellow, and then light red, and then if you get really low it gets glaring red, which makes it kind of hard to read the name, but it really catches your eye. And then I keep track of the saves here. So it goes Fortitude, Reflex, Will. I don't write it down at the top of the column because I use this sheet so much that I've already memorized that it's always Fortitude first, Reflex second, Will third. Their general AC goes here. And I don't modify this when a spell happens. So if someone casts a spell to modify their AC, I just have to remember that they have that buff going. And then their Constitution score goes here so that I know when they'll die. So Celeste has a 10 Constitution score. So if she goes to -9, I'll know that she has one more hit point before she dies because I can just look at her Constitution score. The second page, we'll get to this big part in a minute, but the second page has a whole bunch of details. It has the breakdown of AC with regular AC, touch, and flat-footed AC for every character. And then it has the character's speed, in case I need to know that. And it has their level, which Gerald doesn't have a level. And then their combat maneuver bonus goes here, just so I can look it up easily, and their combat maneuver defense. And then these notes, they're the hardest part to use about this sheet, because if I keep it in this size window, it gets a little hard to read, so you have to double click, and then it pops up the full details. So Celeste is an Aasimar Oracle, so she has one ability from her curse that has a once per day use. She has Daylight once per day as a spell-like ability. ER stands for Energy Resist, Acid, Cold, and Electric 5. So there's that. And then I use shorthand so that the once per day or few times per day abilities have their visibility active whenever it's not double clicked. So unless, say, Meowdred gets a ton more abilities that are all once per day, I'm going to be able to see that he has Cat's Luck once and his Arcane Pool with 3 points. Anyway, so the third page is the initiative sheet. This is not the initiative tracker. This simply records what you rolled for initiative. So let's say Celeste rolled a 12, Meowdred rolled a 16, Reginald rolled an 8, and Vuka rolled a 3, because that's the minimum she could roll. If, say, Celeste delayed her turn until after Reginald, then I could just delay it to be exactly after Reginald. And so if, say, Vuka had a 7, I could write 7.9 to make Celeste come after Reginald but before Vuka. And the way I do initiative ties, so if, say, Celeste has a tie with Meowdred, I roll, instead of doing whoever has the higher dex bonus, I do a second roll, but this time instead of a die 20, you roll a flat die 10, so no modifiers, and that determines your decimal point. So if Celeste rolled a die 10 and got a 4, it would be 16.4, and then Meowdred would roll a die 10 and say it got a 5, so it would be 16.5. And then if there's still a tie, you just roll again to determine the next decimal point. So if they both got 16.4, then Celeste could roll, I don't know, a 3, so it would be 16.43, and Meowdred might roll a 16.44. And as you can see, it rounds automatically because Excel is weird like that, but since they're no longer yellow, that means they're no longer tied. And if we go over to the first sheet again, you can see that this is the initiative tracker. So it has it in order from the highest initiative to the lowest initiative, because that's how Pathfinder works. And then I can just cut and paste this arrow to indicate whose turn it is. So if Meowdred went and then it was Celeste's turn, then I could just cut and paste to Celeste. and then it would be Reginald's turn, and then Vuka's turn. And then this yellow symbol clearly indicates the what round it is. So once I hit Vuka, it'll go back up to Meowdred, and then I just edit this one square right here, the cell, and it updates the round. So now it's the top of round 2. So it's really easy to understand what round it is, and as you can see, I have enough room for a ton of initiatives, and it goes over to the second column if need be, but I've never had to use the second column. And so, oops, oh no, I did the wrong thing. I have to edit this one. Anyways, so with the tokens, I have blue tokens that go from 1 to 10, green tokens that go from 1 to 10, orange tokens go 1 to 5, pink 1 to 5, red 1 to 10, and yellow 1 to 5. And as you can see, if I pull up the initiative tracker, you can see that there's blues, greens, reds, yellows, pinks, and oranges. So I can do 5, 10, 15, 25, 35, 45 monsters in a single combat, with everyone having a unique token. And then, of course, there would be the up to 6 player characters that I have room for. So that would be quite a bit of monsters and whatnot. And as you can see, I have the initiative tracker have enough room for all of that. Anyways, but that is my group initiative sheet, and I hope you enjoyed my description of it, and you'll see lots and lots of use of it in the solo campaign, because that's these two tools right here, the virtual tabletop and the group initiative sheet, is about, I would say, 70% of the stuff that I use in the game. Obviously, the rest is character sheets, which I can bring up to take up the left half of the screen, and then the dice roller and the book and whatnot. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you stay tuned to this channel, you'll see my solo campaign come up pretty quickly. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Goodbye.